This is Share the Vision, presented by the Resource Center, a discussion of the programs and services of the Resource Center and about issues related to individuals with disabilities. Today we will explore in detail NDEAM. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Joining me on Share the Vision today, Terry Johnson, Director of Employment and Community-Based Services here at the Resource Center, and Dan Bender, Production Coordinator and Marketing Specialist for work the Resource Center does at its employment locations in our county, and Barbara Ravalette, a job developer for persons with disabilities, attempting to find for them employment within the community of Chautauqua County. And we begin, as always, with Steve Watterson, Community Relations Director at the Resource Center. Steve Watterson, thank you for inviting me down to your administrative offices once again.
Thanks for coming down, Dennis.
And NDEAM is the acronym, which I guess is used quite frequently here at the Resource Center, to talk about this month, highlighting employment for persons with disabilities.
Yes, it's every October, and I think you noted it's the 70th anniversary, or maybe we didn't note that yet. I can't remember. But
we planned on that, but we haven't gotten to it.
I don't mean to steal anybody's thunder. But it's an opportunity for us to take time and talk about the ways that the Resource Center provides employment and work training opportunities to people with disabilities, both within the Resource Center and out in the community. And we have hundreds of people that are able to earn paychecks and know the dignity and self-esteem that come from having a job and doing meaningful work. And there's always opportunities for more employment. And a lot of things are changing on the employment landscape for people with disabilities statewide and nationwide. So we'll touch on a little bit of those topics today.
You know, the employment situation generally in our community, nationally, has changed a great deal over the years, Steve. And at this point, there are many employers out there who are desperate for people who will come and do work reliably, predictably, over a sustained period of time. And persons with disabilities are, in a way, sort of a hidden part of that economy in that they do deliver. We've done many shows from 75 Jones and Gifford Avenue and at the Work Center in Dunkirk, demonstrating to the listening audience that there are many reliable employees who happen to have a disability.
Yeah, we've talked before about, when you meet somebody new, one of the first questions that comes out of your mouth is, what do you do for a living? And people with disabilities want to work just like anybody else. The unemployment rate for folks with disabilities is much higher than the national average, and it can be tough to find work opportunities for them. And what the Resource Center has been doing for almost 60 years now is helping people to find jobs and meaningful work experiences that, again, allow them to earn a paycheck and be part of the fabric of the community.
And you're saying that this persists even though the general unemployment rate has gone down, and I hear from employers from time to time who do say that it is difficult to find people, and yet unemployment among those with disabilities remains quite high.
Oh, sure. It's probably 60, 70%, I'm guessing, nationwide, wow. So it's still an issue.
Terry Johnson joins us next, and to reflect back to the question that Steve asked that is of importance to all of us, what is it that you do for a living, Terry Johnson?
I'm the Director of Employment and Community-Based Services here at the Resource Center, but our primary function is to give people the opportunity to work or do whatever it is that they want to do in their daily life out in the community.
This has been set up ideally by Steve in terms of talking about the numbers of people with disabilities who would like to be able to work, a high unemployment rate among that particular part of the population. So I would bet that there are many challenges. You may often feel as though your work is never done as you try to find places for people to go and do things.
Absolutely. We have a lot of people. We've had a lot of great success over the last 30 years of employing people with disabilities and jobs in the community, but there's always more coming in, and there's always more people looking for work than what we can find jobs for them. We have people that work in a variety of different types of jobs, so it's not one job for every person, So we have people that work in food service, that work in cleaning, that work in office work, that work in manufacturing. Several years ago, we had a lot of people in manufacturing, and that was one of our biggest sources for placing people in jobs. As you know, we don't have a lot of manufacturing around here left anymore. Allied Industries has been a great support for us as being partially affiliated with TRC, but not everybody wants to work there. Not everybody can do that type of work. So it's really a struggle to find the right niche for each person, and we're really trying to find the right job for each individual person based on what they want to do, what their availability is, and what their limitations are.
I made reference to work centers on Jones and Gifford Avenue in Jamestown and in Dunkirk, and I don't remember exactly the street that the one is on. In Chestnut Street in Dunkirk. Work center, same as Allied Industries. They are essentially the same things, just so our listeners understand what we are talking about. Steve mentioned, as we were setting this up, that it is the 70th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. That surprises all of us a little bit that it's been going on that long.
Yes, actually, President Obama had made a declaration for this year, being that it was the 70th anniversary, and talked a little bit about those that have advocated and fought for the right for people with disabilities to work, and that it didn't happen overnight, and it was kind of a long struggle. So it's definitely something that's recognized that didn't just happen overnight. And it still is a struggle for people with disabilities to get jobs and be able to maintain those jobs. So it's important that for everybody that we work with, not only is it finding them the job, but providing them with the right supports to be able to keep that job, because without the supports, it would be much more difficult for them to be able to maintain that employment. So we have to balance not only finding the job, but having it be a good job match, which I think Barb will talk a little bit, probably in a little bit, about how difficult that is sometimes to find a good job match, and then provide the right supports for that person so that they can maintain that job.
Before our other guests join us, I just want to inquire, based on your experience, Terry, about a couple of things. And one of them is this: why is the unemployment rate that much higher among persons with disabilities than it is for the general public? Is there a simple answer to that question, or is it rather complicated?
It's rather complicated. You know, we've run into a lot of different situations over the years. There's some people that don't recognize that they would need some of those other supports put in place, so they try to do it on their own for many, many years unsuccessfully. So that's one barrier. There's some employers that don't always understand the ways to work with somebody with a disability. So that's why we're here also, to not only for the person we support, but for the employers too, to help them better understand their employees and give them the tools that they need to support their employees. So, you know, we've run into that in the past. There's just a lot of different reasons why it continues. It's not because employers aren't giving them opportunities. That certainly we have over 80 employers just in Chautauqua County that employ people with disabilities. So it's not that people aren't giving them the opportunity, but it's putting all of the resources and all of the tools together for each individual person that sometimes can make it challenging. So we have some people that we've been supporting in their jobs for over 25 years, and then others that if they work 3 months, that's a success for them. And then next time, hopefully they'll work 6 months at a job, and that's a success for them. So everybody's very, very different, and it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Anyone in the population who has hired someone or been out looking for a job knows that finding the right match in terms of a job that someone can do and an employer who's willing to take a chance on that person, engage that person to attempt to do that work, that is always something that has a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of planning, a little bit of luck in it. What you're suggesting to me, Terry, as I listen to you talk, is that the same thing can happen with an individual with an intellectual or physical disability, but the work may be a little harder in terms of finding the exact match and then providing the appropriate supports.
Exactly. Yes, it's definitely, and it's a team of people that help make that happen. Certainly the individual up front, we want to find them a job that they're interested in. And sometimes they come to us and they don't know what they're interested in. If they went to Applebee's over the weekend, that's right in their mind of where they want to work, but they might not have ever worked in food service. So we have to get down to the core of what it is that they want to do and what would meet their strengths. So that's certainly a big piece of it. And then putting into place, once they actually get the job, what they would need to be able to keep that.
One more thing, and then we'll switch to our other guests for a few minutes. You've mentioned a couple of times the supports provided by the Resource Center and how that can be an important, pivotal part of this in terms of making an employment situation successful both for the employer and the employee. What is the nature of the support that you provide uniquely here through the Resource Center to those employers and those persons with disabilities?
Well, for starters, all of our applicants that they would get are pre-screened through our process, and we teach some soft skills training to them before they go out into the workforce. They have case manager supports that can help them navigate through their benefits so that they understand how their benefits are affected. We have our job developers that are out there selling the individuals, talking about the benefits to the employers, the tax credits that they can receive for hiring somebody with a disability. We have job coaches that are there on site assisting with the training. So they're assisting the business and the supervisor on how to train the individual. And when there's bumps in the road, they can come back in at any time. So I think that's a really good benefit to the employer, that the person might be doing great for 6 months to a year, and then something changes at the job. There's either a new supervisor, change in management, or change in like a time clock system, or anything. Little change can really set somebody down a path of not being as successful as they had been. So then that job coach can come back in and re-intervene and train the individual again on whatever the changes and procedures are at that work site.
That is the voice of Terry Johnson. She's the Director of Employment and Community-Based Services here at the Resource Center. She, as well as Steve Watterson, will be back in just a moment. Today on Share the Vision, we are talking about October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month, NDEAM, as it is called. I would like next to introduce to you Barbara Ravalette, who is a job developer here at the Resource Center. Barbara, thank you for taking the time to come and speak with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You were sitting right behind Terry as I was speaking to her, and I saw you nod in agreement at a number of different points. So perhaps I'll just open the door for you as we begin our discussion here today for those things that we've already talked about that resonated with you, that you would like to emphasize in your experience as a job developer here.
Well, one of the things I want to start with is I always tell people what a pleasure it is to job search with and for people with disabilities. And I think we take that out into the community as a plus. I have a fabulous person that needs a job. Is there something that's not being done in your organization? So before you think you had a problem, I already have a solution for it. And I think that's probably opened many doors. And the interesting thing is the number of people who will say to you after I'm done with my speech, more or less, you know, I have a nephew or a niece or a cousin or someone in my family that has a disability. How can they get involved with this? I mean, just in the face-to-face and trying to find a job for someone, you can open the doors for many other people. So I thoroughly enjoy going into the community, knocking on the doors, and basically saying, here I am.
How long have you been doing this work?
Not even a little less than 2 years for this organization.
You are very passionate about this.
Yes.
And you have a background in employment services otherwise?
Yes. I've done this for, I would say 10 to 12 years, help people find jobs. Yes. With other organizations, too.
In the disabled community or the community in general?
Just the community in general. Mm-hmm.
So what has your experience been like? How has your approach to all of this changed as you have been placing persons with disabilities at jobs in the community?
Well, I have more time to spend with the people. In the other organizations, it was a patterned program, and so you're in for so long, you do this, no. Whereas we have rules and regulations and stipulations, it's more building the relationship. And as Terry mentioned, that's one of the supports. I'm not just here for a minute, and you can call me in 3 months or 6 months or a year from now, and I'm still going to be answering the phone. So that's one of the major benefits. We have the case managers, we each have our caseload, and we get to know these people as individuals. And then they share with us things that, you know, on a questionnaire, I can't get this answer. So we're talking to each other, and I get to know your strengths.
Two things have emerged during the course of the program so far that I want to have you speak to for a moment, Barbara. One is the great success and cooperation that the Resource Center has had in Chautauqua County with 80 different employers, a couple of hundred people placed in those places of employment, and simultaneous with that, still a very high rate of unemployment among potentially capable persons with disabilities. How does that happen to play out that way? Are there just not enough jobs or not enough job developers, or is there still some resistance in the marketplace to placing people with disabilities?
Well, even if you think that you've been to every place and knocked on the door, there's always new places opening up. And if we get a good match the first time, that opens up for more and more people to be employed at mom and pop type things. I mean, recently, successfully, we placed somebody at the UPS store on Foote Avenue. revenue. And that had not happened in the past, but it's just a matter of we can't assume they can't do it, so I'm going to knock on the door, fill out the application, and get the interview. So I don't know that there's a true correlation other than there in Chautauqua County are more people that need jobs than there are jobs available with the skills that each of the people have.
Are there roadblocks otherwise that you encounter from time to time as the process is initiated or as it begins to grow that you might speak to for a moment, particularly in the mindset of business owners and potential employers out there?
The only roadblock that has come up repeatedly is this concern about insurance.
Insurance how?
Yes, because what if something happens? What if the person falls? What if the person says something bad? What if the person, and I always say any person that you have employed here currently could do any of those things. Fall off the ladder, say something rude to their employer, something like that. Let's not assume that any of those things would happen in the first place. So it's a misconception, I guess, that there's a higher risk of something going wrong if a person has a disability.
That's just not the case.
It's just not the case, no.
You mentioned the UPS store. Do you want to tell one or two other success stories in terms of where persons with disabilities are working in the community? If you just want to identify the type of business, you don't have to say specifically names of businesses if you or they would be uncomfortable with that.
An absolutely marvelous thing happened. We have one of the program components is to have an assessment. Let's see if you I say I want to do this. We have the opportunity to put you in the situation that you think you want to do, and it happened to be I want to work in a restaurant. So I was up at the airport, and I went to Tarmac, the restaurant there, and the guy said, sure, we'll try this. I'll do this for you, the assessment. It was a 20-hour one. And at the end of the assessment, he was hired. Brand new, open door, nobody'd been there before, and that is a success story, that they hired him from assessment. Can I and do I want to do this too? Now I'm employed.
So that moved very, very quickly. Everything fell into place very nicely.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Hold on a minute, Barbara. We'll get back to you. But Dan Bender's not had an opportunity to speak on this program yet. Production coordinator, marketing specialist at Allied Industries. Is that the right way to say this?
Yes, correct, Dennis.
Welcome to Share the Vision and to our radio show here today. Comment first on the entire concept of this month, National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and how your work relates to that.
Well, we at Allied Industries at the workshop, that's what we are. I mean, we provide jobs for individuals with disabilities. I mean, it's manufacturing. We do some sewing. We do what Terry and Barbara have talked about internally at TRC, and we provide employment for those individuals, and they have a joy in what they do, and it's I mean, I think every person that works over there is a success story in my eyes. When you have people come up to you and they show you what they've done for the day on their production ticket, and they're like, yeah, I did 500 pieces. It's just, I mean, to see them, they're just so excited to have work and to be able to be working.
How long have you been involved in this part of the Resource Center Allied Industries?
Well, I was just recently this year, I took over the production coordinator position, but I've been at the Resource Center about 7 years. I've actually I was on the work floor working in the sewing department, and then just gradually have worked my way through the company. And so, but just recently, probably 2 years, I've been a part of bringing jobs in for individuals with disabilities.
So you are actually going out and soliciting business that can be then brought into these work centers, Allied Industry, and done by the people there.
Correct.
Now, there has been a shadow cast over the entire work center or Allied Industries concept over the last couple of years. Some strong forces outside the local community, outside the resource center, and maybe even outside the entire national community of the disabled and those who work to provide work for them. Forces elsewhere trying to change or eliminate this kind of work. I can't let the opportunity go by without having you speak to that effort and that challenge.
Well, Terry she would have better ideas than I would. It is a challenge for us, especially with like the 14C, which enables us to pay our employees piece rate. If that were to go away, I mean, some of the jobs that we do, that's how we keep the work, is because they do it at piecework. I mean, if we were to charge, which I think The minimum wage is going to $9 this year. So, I mean, if we were to charge $9 instead of a piecework rate, it's going to be hard for that job to stay at the resource center. So we've actually, knowing that this is coming, it hasn't come yet, but it could possibly happen. We've actually are pricing jobs as we bring them in at minimum wage, just so we're ahead of the game.
A couple of things, Dan. One, it has often been said that the work centers, places like Allied Industries, need to be maintained even with an increased impetus on finding positions for persons with disabilities in the community. You agree with that? There are good reasons to have work centers, people who could only work there and not elsewhere?
Oh, yes, I agree wholeheartedly. There's just, I mean, especially the people that are already there. There's some people that the people that are in that unemployment rate, you could probably get in and put them out in the community. I mean, that's probably a little easier. But these folks that are here now, they're used to being, they love going to the resource center. They don't want to go somewhere else. They don't want to go to Applebee's or Home Depot to work. They want to be here and help our company at our manufacturing facility. So.
And you may comment on this if you like, Dan Bender, but you have a great family legacy in the same kind of work.
Yes, I guess you could say I've kind of followed my father's footsteps. He was the director of business operations for
Greg Bender,
yes, for quite some time. So it's, I guess, I was brought in, and I've just kind of worked my way through. So it's hopefully someday I could, live up to those big shoes that he has, fill them.
I would just say as a footnote that we did many wonderful Share the Vision programs in conference rooms like this, on the shop floor with your dad. Please give him our best.
I will. Thank you.
Before you leave us, Barbara, anything you want to add to what Dan has said here before we switch back to Steve and Terry?
It is absolutely a community. When they go to the work center, those are their friends. We choose employment based on people we associate with, etc. And the fact that they are flourishing there and go to work every day and build those friendships, that's what they look forward to, just like we do. Going to work, seeing my best friend, or talking to my boss, or learning something new. And it's wonderful. We do have a program that's transitioning people from the work center into community employment, and that's working well too, but they'll tell you they like working there. It's okay that I'm learning these skills, but I got to get back and talk to so-and-so. So it is working, and it's wonderful that the programs are available to try and transition, but they love it there.
Barbara Ravalette is a job developer for the Resource Center. Just before her, you heard the voice of Dan Bender, production coordinator and marketing specialist for Allied Industries, with places on Jones and Gifford Avenue in Jamestown and Chestnut Street in Dunkirk. Terry Johnson returns here. I'll remind you that she's the Director of Employment and Community-Based Services here at TRC. Terry, when I brought up with Dan Bender the subject of the potential closing or the reduction of the availability of jobs at places like Allied Industries, he referred me immediately back to you. So if you want to speak to that subject one more time here, I'll give you the opportunity to do so.
Sure. I think the push is, at one point it was to close all work centers down. That push has kind of softened a bit over the last few months, I would say, 6 months maybe. But the push now is that they want work centers to be more integrated. And so that causes some challenges for us. But the people that are at the work center, both Dan and Barb hit on this quite well. They're there because they want to be there, not because they're being forced to be there. And everybody that is there has the opportunity to try community-based employment. Some of them have done it and been unsuccessful and have gone back to the work center. Some of them are there because they have been there for so long, that's their comfort, that's what they prefer to do. I like to tell the story. I have an uncle who works at the work center and has been there for a long time, and when I was just starting at the Resource Center in employment, I said, you can get a job in the community. He's very capable. He can do a lot of different things. And he was so mad at me, he didn't speak to me for months. And every time I've brought it up since then, I've started to soften my approach with him. But he is not interested in doing anything else. He's been there for a long time, and that's where he wants to retire from. And he makes that very clear to his family that those are his wishes. So I think we need to be respectful of what people want to do with their lives. I come to work here because I want to, and if I didn't want to, I'd go work someplace else. And I think we need to give them that same level of respect, that if that's where they want to work, that's where we should try to make it happen for them.
On a related subject, would you speak for a moment to the employment Coalition of Western New York?
Absolutely. There's a website that's been established. It's the www.employmentcoalitionofwesternnewyork.org, and it's a variety of different agencies like ours that operate work centers that have put some information on there. There's a petition that can be signed to keep work centers open, and there's a lot of articles and videos that are kind of explaining what's happening with work centers. There's a white paper that's been written, and then there's contact information so that individuals that want to advocate on behalf of keeping work centers open can write to their government officials and try to make the case that work centers should remain open.
The time is fleeting, but I would like to do this as we bring this program to a close. If there are employers, potential employers in the community who are touched by what we say here today and would just like more information, or if there are families or individuals out there who are interested in obtaining employment and they or the person that they are thinking of has a disability, what's the right first step for people to take, Terry?
Well, if it's an employer that's looking to hire somebody with a disability, their best bet would be to call Barb, and her number is 661-4927. If it's somebody that's looking for services or any other types of things that we can do for them in the employment front, they can give me a call at 661-1433.
Thank you very much. I always enjoy speaking with you. Thank you for spending the time with us.
Thanks, Dennis.
Now we are back to Steve Watterson, Community Relations Director at the Resource Center. Really a very informative, enlightening program, I hope we have put out to the audience here today. Anything that you would like to add or reemphasize for us?
Just one other thing. The Resource Center also provides janitorial services to local businesses and government institutions, and we do that, I don't know, a couple dozen maybe? That we perform that work for. So I guess to tie in, we were getting the phone numbers for giving out phone numbers for people that were businesses might be interested in hiring somebody, but businesses might be interested in janitorial services or maybe subcontracting with the Resource Center Allied Industries to do some work should probably call, what's the number, Dan? 661 1523.
Okay.
That sound good?
Fine.
Okay.
And thank you again. We're doing all of this because of NDEAM, the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Steve Watterson will take a moment for a couple of events if you want to talk about anything Resource Center related.
Coming up on Monday, October 26th, we are having our annual Disability Awareness Award celebration where we recognize individuals with disabilities who have achieved significant things in their own lives during the past year, as well as recognize community members and businesses, organizations that have helped people with disabilities to achieve their aspirations. We're mixing things up and having it at Moonbrook Country Club this year. It starts at 6 o'clock. It's $25 to attend, only $20 if you're a member of the Resource Center. But the reservation deadline is this coming Monday, the 19th. So you can go online to the Resource Center's website and find information about it, or you can call the Resource Center's main number, and we can provide registration information for you. The other thing that we're doing next Saturday, the 24th, we are partnering with a number of other local organizations to have a fall festival at Lillian Dixon Park on Faulkner Street in Jamestown. They have some handicap accessible playground equipment there and just want to make families and children aware that it's there. We've got some music, some drum demonstrations that will be going on, some play activities that can double as play therapy, can kind of make therapy fun, and some other things that will be going on. So that's going to be from 10 to 2 next Saturday at Lillian Dixon Park on Faulkner Street.
We're saying just before we started the Share the Vision recording today what an effective and excellent spokesperson you are on behalf of the Resource Center. Steve, you've just proven that again. Thank you very much.
Man, I'm good.
and modest, too.
Yeah. Well.
to Steve Watterson, Terry Johnson, Barbara Revelette, and Dan Bender, thank you for sharing the vision today.